morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. And this morning we're going to continue looking at discernment. I'm not going to look at specific questions, but I would rather focus on something else before I get to looking at specific questions which we can ask ourselves with regards to discernment. As I said, discernment is not the same as decision making. Discernment is a way of seeing that can permeate the whole of life. It is the movement from a human perspective to a spiritual perspective, where we continually look for the evidence of the works of God, so that we can join Him in those works. Discernment is a quality of attentiveness to God, and this over time develops into the ability to sense God's heart and God's purpose, and we become familiar with His voice. We notice how God is present to us in the moment. Cultivating discernment means we are seeking the movement of God's Spirit so that we can surrender to it. Another vital aspect is to test the spirits. And we read of this in 1 Corinthians 12 and verse 10. To test to see if they are of God, so that we can distinguish the real from the phony, the true from the false, so that we can distinguish between what is good and what is evil. What is good always moves us towards God, and what is evil moves us away from God. We can use the words consolation and desolation to help us to get a sense of where God's Spirit is moving, and whether or not this is indeed God's Spirit. Consolation is an interior movement of the heart that gives us a deep sense of life, that gives us a deep connection with God, in fact, a life-giving connection with God, and with others, and with our authentic self. When we're in a place of consolation, we feel as if all is right with the world, and that we are free to be given over to God and to love, even in the moments of pain and crisis. Desolation, on the other hand, is a loss of the sense of God's presence. Not that God is not there, but we have no sense of His presence. We feel out of touch with God and with others and with our authentic selves. We feel off-center, full of turmoil, confusion, and maybe even rebellion. Or we may feel that our energy is just drained away, or there might be a constant tension within us, or tears which well up in our eyes. Consolation and desolation are not just emotions. They are felt in the body, and they often alert us to the truth that can be sensed and known inwardly before we are conscious of it. So you might be going through some deep hardship. There might be sadness and fear about the future. But underneath all of this, there is the peace that passes understanding. God's presence leading you. That is consolation. Or you might experience good things. But deep down inside, some of these good things might be your business is doing well, your relationships are doing well, yet deep down inside you are anxious. You are diseased. Perhaps there's a sense of dread, and you sense you're not being true to yourself. That is desolation. Your body knows and is telling you what your mind does not want to know or may not yet be ready to know. In Deuteronomy chapter 30, God says this through Moses, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that your descendants may live. And God's will for us is that we do more of what gives us life and turn away from the things that drain us and lead us away from God. Jesus says, I have come that you might have life and have it in abundance. So when we come to choose, we need to be able to notice what gives us a sense of life, a sense of freedom in the spirit, and the peace that passes all understanding. The opportunity to choose life is ours, in day-to-day choices and in the larger choices. And we have these opportunities both personally and corporately. And so when we come to discern what it is that we're going to choose to do, and we're wanting to get a sense of where God is leading us, we look for consolation and we look for desolation. And we see there perhaps the invitation that God has in discernment. And so perhaps we can do this. Take a few moments to notice the experiences of consolation, feelings of being well and connected to God, and areas of desolation, feelings of being apart from God, anxious, drained, diseased. Notice those in the last 24 hours. Now ask God to reveal a moment you are most grateful for, a moment that was life-giving, energizing, when you were able to give and receive love, when you were your best self, when you felt connected to God. That is consolation. Then ask God to show you a moment for which you are least grateful. A moment that drained life and energy away from you. A moment when you were unable to give and receive love. When you were not able to be your best self or felt disconnected with God. That is desolation. God invites us to choose life. As you reflect on these experiences, is there any wisdom or insight that comes about that you might use that would give you a sense of how you can choose more life in the way in which you live, in the direction which you're going? Which gives you more life? That will be God's invitation. Amen.